Welcome to Far East Wargaming, bringing you another Heresy Thursday. I'm Richard, your host, and once again with me is Jason.
Hello everyone, glad to be back and thank you for joining us.
So this week we're taking a look back on something that came out, I think it was last week, that we haven't covered yet, and that is the new exemplary battles for the Blood Angels, and they've released the Sanguinary Guard that we didn't previously have in 30k, but are one of the staples from 40k.
Yes, indeed. The 40k models are pretty nice. They've got a lot of detail and a little bit over the top for my taste, as is the case with most 40k models, but they've been mentioned in the books. We've seen them on the cover of several of the Heresy novels and various other sources, clad in their golden armor, and here we finally have some rules for them for 30k.
Yep, and they've also given us some nice artwork in terms of what they'd expect us to do with them, and they're using the new Assault Marines with the upgraded Perdition weapons from the Blood Angels Armory upgrade. I think it's a resin kit there. One of each of the weapons is included. The question is, would you really outfit them with one of each of the Perdition weapons, or are some better than others?
Yeah, I mean, Perdition weapons, just to very quickly summarize them, essentially they give a strength bonus versus a normal power weapon. They also have Brutal 2, which is always nice. The downside is most of them are still AP3. This is not the best weapons that I think you would want to equip most units with. And let's be honest, to your earlier point, you probably want more of these guys with either axes or spears than the actual blades. And that's going to cost you a pretty penny. You're going to have to figure out how to convert that from a lot of other models. Now, the good news is that even though the Warcom article and some of the other posts you've seen on social media use exclusively Mark 6 and the upgrade kits specifically for 30k, there's nothing stopping you from actually using 40k Sanguinary Guard, and you get access to a lot more axes if you actually have that kit.
Yep. Another thing to bear in mind for the Perdition weapons, they're all two-handed weapons, so you're losing that extra attack from bolt pistols, and you're also losing the ability, if you really wanted to put combat shields on these models. We've talked a bit previously about the effectiveness of combat shields there. The kits themselves for the upgrade is £24 for the 4 different weapons. You get an assault cannon as well there, which you can add. And I think we've gone over this kit in the past regarding some of the pros and cons of it. The nice thing about this unit, though, is if we look at some of their rules, they're 5 models for 210. Weapon skill 5, standard ballistic skill, strength, toughness, and wounds of 2 there. Initiative 4, 2 base attacks, and that's all really they're going to get other than their charge bonus because of the two-handed weapons. But I will say that for every 5 models you can get a Paragon Blade here. I think that's quite key as well. You've got to remember how effective and how deadly Paragon Blades can be. And if you're equipping this with a 10-man squad, you're adding another 200 points for another 5 guys. Here you're adding then another 20 points. So this is a 430 point model, 30-point unit with Perdition weapons and 2 Paragon Blades. Toss up whether you really want to use these.
Yeah, I guess just to add a couple more comments about the Wargear before I kind of get into my further analysis. You can get Melt-A-Bombs for 25 points per the entire unit. That's not any sort of limit. So if you do take a full 10-man squad, that's actually very points effective, so you're probably going to take that as well. The double Paragon Blades is nice as an addition. The Inferno pistols, believe it or not, if you have the points to spare, mixing a few of these into the squad plus the Melt-A-Bombs means that these guys can go hunt vehicles relatively easily. The problem is that all that stuff adds up, and to your point, you're easily over 500 points at that stage. And I guess the question is, does that 500 points outshine Dawnbreakers? Does it outshine a standard command squad with jump packs? Does it outshine, I don't know, Angel's Tears with massed assault cannons? It's another nice choice in the list in terms of being spoiled for choice with more weapon skill fives, close combat type squads. But was it really necessary? No. From a fluff perspective, I think it's great. I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with the unit. Like, there's a lot of people that are actually hating on it, trying to compare it directly to command squads. And that's actually not a fair comparison, because you're getting perdition weapons here. You're getting access to Paragon blades. You're getting the cheap melta bombs. I mean, you just have a lot of other options here. And if you do take it as a retinue, you can still get access to a Legion standard, granting the unit line. So yeah, I can see a use for this, but I guess it's just, did Blood Angels need yet another jump pack assault squad type unit? And the answer is probably no. But I'm not as down on these as you see a lot of people on the internet.
Yeah, I think I'm very similar to you in the opinion here. It's nice to have because they have been in the rule, they have been in the books, they have been in the lore. They're very prevalent in 40k, and they can take a standard for 15 points. You are exchanging one of the perdition weapons for a standard power weapon for the Legion standard there, and 15 point extra. So again, more things that add up here. In terms of other special rules, they've got the burning ones, and this is a very fluffy special rule. It's if there is Sanguinius there, and they all get one extra attack if Sanguinius has less than four wounds or less, and they get another extra attack if he's actually dead and no longer on the battlefield. But they also have something like Living Icon, because if at least two models are within 6 inches of another friendly unit, you get +1 to the successful wounds. I think it's very similar to the Living Icon rule here, except you do need 2 of the Sanguinary Guard around to convey that. It's still a potential force multiplier, but I think the downsides really outweigh some of the benefits, in my opinion. I do like jump packs, and I do understand that Blood Angels will be using a lot of jump packs, especially if they're going to use the Day of Revelations and go jump pack heavy. But to echo your point, is jump pack options for the Blood Angels are quite broad, and there are just better units for jump packs. If you're using these as a command squad replacement, you're required to take the jump pack, and if you're deep striking them in, I don't know if that's probably the best way to use these guys. And if you're walking them across the table, they're going to get shot and prioritized like any other aggressive unit here. And since they have no options to not have jump packs, they can't even get a transport of some type just to benefit from their increased increased stat line or rules. But as a fluffy thing to go with Sanguinius, putting 10 of these guys there, it's ablative wounds for Sanguinius, that's for sure, but it's another 400 something points on top of Sanguinius's points. And as we've said in the past, the retinues count towards the Primarch's points cost in terms of that 25%.
Yeah, that's a great point, because yes, you're going to be taking these in probably larger point games, and yes, that's when you're taking Primarch. And yes, as a retinue, then they are going to add up to that 25% rule. So that's all very good points. I don't worry too much about the points cost on these, because, to be frank, in most games where you're going to see a big blob, you're already playing at 3K, 3.5K, maybe even a 4K game. So the cost of the unit itself is not necessarily a downside. But obviously, you're not going to be fielding, say, 10 of these guys in a 2K game, unless you're really interested in sinking a quarter of your points into that. But no, I mean, overall, I would have to say I give this a thumbs up. Again, it's fluffy. The rules seem to be pretty well written out. It is pricey, but for what it does, when you compare it to some of the other options, it does a lot. And if, let's say, if you're playing Blood Angels, you're usually going to be committed to mass deep strike with jump pack units anyhow. And if this is your first unit down and you string it out properly, all of a sudden you've got 3 or 4 other units that are getting that +1 combat res. So not bad. Again, I would have to give this a thumbs up.
Yeah, I will say I am slightly disappointed that there wasn't a unit-specific model that came out, because we have unit-specific models for the Dome Breaker cohorts. I think the Angels tiers have a model, don't they?
They do.
They do, yeah. And since we do have Sanguinary Guard in 40k, in plastic as well there, with those torsos, those quite fancy torsos and modified jump packs, using the standard Mark 6 new assault box seems a bit underwhelming for this, what is supposed to be elite unit.
I would agree with you there, but I guess if I'm just putting my business hat on, it's no surprise that Games Workshop would want this, modeled with only 30k appropriate stuff, right? They want to show off the new Command Squad bits. They want to show off the Blood Angels upgrade kit. So like everybody wailing and gnashing their teeth that this isn't using the 40k models. I mean, I get it, right? Now, me personally, if I wanted to save money, I would absolutely go straight to plastic and make these out of the Dawnbreakers in plastic, because again, you get more access to more of the axes. You have a couple ornate swords that are already in that kit that you can use to represent the Perdition blades or the Paragon blades. You've got these wrist-mounted kind of, grenade launcher / bolter looking things that could easily be converted over. You get Inferno pistols in that kit. So yes, I mean, absolutely, the 40k kit is probably a better use to make this unit if you want to, but I mean, from a business or marketing perspective, I understand why they did not mix that into the showcase units.
Yeah. All in all, look, I think it's a nice option to have. It's a very fluffy option to have. I think the Blood Angels players will like it. I can't really complain too much about them releasing exemplary battles for these. Blood Angels do have a few units, but they're not overly loved by Games Workshop, and yeah, it's just a matter of whether you'd see much play from these guys on the battlefield. My honest thoughts are no. I think a lot of people will convert these over from the 40k Sanguinary Guard just to have modeled. They'd probably play them honestly as a standard command squad, especially if you are just giving them perdition weapons in the sense of power weapons acting as perdition blades and things like this. They could very easily act as command squads. So yeah, versatility if you model them right. Options to get if you don't want to use the 30k current assault squad bits and you want to go into the 40k plastic. Thanks to the new command squad sprues, or hopefully the upgrade sprue which comes out as well, you can probably quite affordably convert over the standard for this and use all the other command squad bits to act as some of these weapons as well. Yeah, look, I'm glad we have something new for the Horus Heresy. I will give them props. They are pumping out a lot of articles and new models and or new variations to the rules, at least, to use their new kits to keep us interested. There's a lot of content coming out for Horus Heresy, and that's good to see because it means that the naysayers are maybe wrong. This is going to be around for a while. It's going to be supported very heavily for a while. I like to see all this plastic.
Yep. No further comment from me other than to say my mistake if I said Dawnbreakers when referring to the 40k kit. It is indeed the Sanguinary Guard.
Yeah. No, well, you weren't wrong. The Dawnbreaker bodies can definitely be used as alternatives for this. You just, I think, have to remove the hand that has that inbuilt power weapon or that inbuilt gun. They'd still be very, very nice models to use as this kit. Well, moving on from the Sanguinary Guard here, I think we had missed also something with the Solar Auxilia, something a bit fluffy. They did the Heraldry Part 2, and I know you have a Solar Auxilia force now, but what I will say is I'm very happy with the fluff that they're coming out and giving people options, because for these horde armies, sometimes it is hard for the newer player to figure out how they want to paint them if they don't want to follow the box art, or where to go and find the lore for the different color schemes and things like this. And so in this article, they're showing you step by step, really, what the individual soldiers will look like and how to accentuate your tanks to meet the different forces of the Solar Auxilia. And yeah, I'm actually a really big fan of the way they've done this.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I love... Probably one of my favorite things about 30K, whether it was the original 1.0 black books or the new rule books and the supplements, I love anything that has the color plates. Honestly, that's one of my favorite things. I'm a big fluff head. I like reading the books. I like seeing the art. So this article is really cool. And I do like the fact that they've kind of given you more options tied to specific legions. So, for example, if we take a look, the Siphon Elevati, these are bonded to the Blood Angels. And of course, they have a very similar scheme to the Blood Angels, but some of them are even slightly different from their so called host legion, right? So we have the Archite Palatines that are bonded to the Emperor's children. And instead of purple, they go into more of like a wine burgundy color on their armor, which is pretty cool. And then if you look at the color plates for the tanks, they show some different ways to do the markings on the tanks other than the standard front corner of the tread is going to be one offset accent color. Like we've got some angled lines across. We've got different parts of the armor painted with accent colors, different shapes on the front. So yeah, I mean, all in all, I think this is a really cool article. Definitely useful for those that are getting into 30K Solar Aux, if that's the way that you want to go. And you've now got some more options here to mess around with. And even if you don't want to paint it in one of these specific schemes, you could use that scheme for inspiration in terms of how you want to mark your tanks or where to apply your color accents on the armor of the Solar Aux themselves.
Yeah, the one thing I would say about the Solar Aux and the different patterns you can get for these, I think a lot of people will be getting Solar Orc detachments to act as allied detachments. So if you have a large Solar Orcs force and you also do have some Space Marines, you can paint portions of your forces in different colors, because they don't all have to be the same. There's no special rules for each of these forces, and it was very common for Solar Auxilia forces to combine. They are a horde army, they are humans as such, and they come together to fight battles here. So you could have a small detachment of each within your force, and it would make it a very colorful force to see on the battlefield and very interesting narrative wise.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. Kind of the shattered legions of the Solar Aux, if you wanted to mix and match. We did get in the Battle for Beta Garmin supplement recently, we did get these legions Auxilia, where they have special rules if they attach to a particular legion. I won't go through all the details of the rules. So that does kind of lock certain Solar Aux units into the livery, into the legion that they're a part of, if you want to go the full fluff appropriate route. But I think, again, to your point, it would be really cool to see kind of a thrown together unit or force of Solar Aux remnants fighting as their own version as the Shattered Legions. So go wild with it. I think if you're a Solar Aux player, you actually have much more freedom with your color schemes than you do for the legions, and so some people would find that attractive.
Yeah. And then finally, the latest article that came out is like a fluff article about the Night Lords and the Command Squad. And I think it's really here just trying to highlight the latest release from Games Workshop for the Horus Heresy. And that's the latest Command Squad box here. So we're looking at a Night Lords Command Squad using the Assault Marines box and using the Command Squad upgrades, including the combat shields here and some of the newer heads. So again, very similar to what the artwork is for the new Sanguinary Guard for 30k, but in Night Lord's heraldry. And honestly, the one thing I'll say for me personally about this, I do like the Night Lord's heraldry, I do like these lightning bolts, but there's so many nice Night Lordy bits that just aren't included here, especially the shoulder pads and some of the helms, that if I was building a command squad for the Night Lord specifically, those are the things I'd be using very prevalent in my building and assembly, as opposed to, again, using a lot of the standard plastic kits.
Yeah, I agree. I won't beat a dead horse about what they want to showcase in terms of marketing, but I think you're right. I mean, if I was building, and I do have a Night Lord's force, if I was building this command squad, I'd be going crazy with the Night Lord's heads, with the shoulder pads, either, official Forgeworld or third party, bits with hands and flayed skin through green stuff or whatever else. I mean, I think you could go really wild and make just an incredible looking command squad, but I get it why they did this. What I do think is a nice touch is the little black stripe on the combat shield itself. black is an accent color for the Night Lords. You don't see it used a lot, but this is a nice little application in my opinion. And probably the last thing I liked about this article is the way the guy took Dominion Zephon, which is the Blood Angels jump pack character, and showed how with just a few bit swaps, changing out the weapon, those little pennants, flesh pennants, those are actually from the Night Lords Forgeworld jump pack Praetor model. Just shows how you can convert that model from Blood Angels to Night Lords pretty easily. And this is a really good looking conversion that I like a lot.
Yep, I like you with that. I do. This is how I'd expect the command squad to look more for every model in the command squad in terms of what you'd add to it. So it's got all the shoulder pads. It's got their chain. I think it's a chain glaive. I think it's what they use. I can't remember off the top of my head. But these are the weapons, and I also. This is more very much Games Workshop heavy metal style with the edge highlighting there. Take it or leave it, whether you want those on your Night Lords or you want the color gradient shading that a lot of people go for with then hand-drawn lightning bolts. I do like the conversion. I think if they'd at least used the shoulder pads on some of the command squad, it would have made them stand out. Still had the command squad bits, but made these more Night Lordy. Would have been nice to see.
Agree with you there. And just kind of as a side note, since you mentioned it, I think Night Lords are one of those armies that really look good with actually the heavy metal style of edge highlighting. It just really makes them pop, in my opinion. And in my own army, that's the style that I've actually gone with, even though my other forces, a lot of them use Grimdark and Weathering and all that. I think Night Lords just look so stunning when they're painted in this style. So, yep, personal preference, to each their own. No wrong way to do it, but overall, I like that model.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's everything from us for this Heresy Thursday from Far East Wargaming. I hope you've enjoyed what we've discussed, and look, if you have differing opinions from our takes on the latest releases in the articles that released by Warhammer Community regarding Horus Heresy, let us know down in the comments. Always happy to have constructive discussions down there with you guys and some interactions to see what your opinions are. So please feel free to drop a comment down there, and also, as standard, if you haven't already, please hitting the subscribe button really helps us grow as a channel, as well as the like button, because it tells YouTube that you're actually listening and caring for what is happening in this video, and so we get a bit more promotion in the elusive algorithm that everybody talks about there. So yes, thanks very much for tuning in.
Yep, appreciate it as always. Keep those comments coming. We love the feedback, and we will catch you on the next one.